Well, guys, this is some crazy stuff. I was just the other day sitting at my computer, playing a video game, and out of nowhere, I got hit with like a stray thought that just came out of nowhere. You know, it's been like over a year since you've responded to Blaire White. She's one of the most prominent conservative transphobes on the internet, and you haven't covered one of her videos in like a year. And there's kind of a reason for that. I used to cover her stuff a lot since she's still and was one of the most prominent conservatives out there, so she was up there with like Crowder, Shapiro, kind of a regular that you would revisit, right? A lot of reason to cover her stuff. She's constantly spewing misinfo to a lot of people. It's important to fight against. But on top of that, her videos are so annoying and so lacking in arguments that all I end up doing is occasionally she lies and I can like debunk it, but usually it's just her finding usually teenage TikTokers with unconventional styles of dress and presentation, attacking them like 80% for how they look, and the other 20% might go after what they say, but generally I don't even agree with what's being said in those TikToks all that much, even if it's from the left. It's usually genuinely some radical crazy stuff, and I don't disagree with a lot of the things that Blaire White might call out in response to it, like as far as arguments go, but she spends so much time bullying and attacking the identity of people that it's like, well, she's just kind of a worthless piece of shit as far as I care. And on top of that, she is a massive liar. I referenced it before, but I should elaborate with an example, a really bad example of her lying. I should say a good one, but no, it's bad. Blaire White wanted to respond to a TikToker saying that trans women who have had bottom surgery still need to get pap smears to check for cervical cancer. And Blaire White, seeing this, saw an opportunity to very much, like, perfect fodder for her conservative, ignorant audience on this topic, right? Now, what she proceeds to do is take that clip, respond to it with the natural response that you expect from someone like Blaire White, which is like, what do you mean trans women don't have cervixes? What are you talking about? You crazy? You think you could... Now these trans people are so desperate to think they're valid that they say they get cervical cancer. Wow. And so she then proceeds to show a, actually, let me bring it up. Oh my gosh, March 17th, 2023, the Canadian Cancer Society, the website that Blaire White used to lie and mislead, was used for the same purpose again, and the website had to change the layout of their page because people were clipping it to spread harmful transphobic misinfo. Here, let me read this article because it actually tells you exactly what Blaire White did, and it was such a big problem that the Canadian Cancer Society had to change and put advisories on their webpage because right-wingers were clipping it like she did for misinfo so much. The Canadian Cancer Society recommends that trans women get screened for cervical cancer. Missing context. The Canadian Cancer Society advises on its webpage that some trans women who have received certain types of vaginoplasties, also known as bottom surgeries, can be at a rare risk for cancer because of the tissue used in some procedures. Thus, those patients may need to be occasionally screened with pap smears. The organization's guidance makes clear that trans women who haven't had bottom surgery aren't at risk for cervical cancer and don't need to be regularly tested for the disease. The fact: social media users are mischaracterizing the Canadian Cancer Society's guidance on cervical cancer among trans women to suggest that the organization is urging all members of the group to be routinely tested for the disease. Okay, so this is a completely different thing. Blaire White showed the first paragraph where they say, where they basically respond to the question of whether or not trans women should get cervical pap smears under the reference that you wouldn't have gotten bottom surgery. She just shows that and then cuts out the very next paragraph, which says, if you've had bottom surgery, however, you need to get it. So she lies about whether or not trans women can get cervical cancer at all and says they outright can't ever because she wants to push the idea that this crazy TikToker is convinced of some fantasy, biologically impossible thing for the sake of their own validation of their identity. And so Blaire White is not just a liar. She's lied about people and hurt them and had to apologize for it, so much to the extent where she's uploaded, like, crying YouTuber apologies and then repeated the same behavior. In fact, it's what she's famous for now. She's gone from doing crying YouTuber apologies about misgendering and questioning whether or not trans people are on hormones or whether they're really trans to now it's what she's famous for. So Blair White is really just an evil piece of shit. And I feel it's been just far too long since we've talked about her. So, getting my long-ass intro out of the way, let's take a look at what she's been up to, huh? Her most recent video is Detransitioner tells her emotional story to Blair White. They told me I was a boy. The next one is asking people Trump or Kamala. Next one is the Trump assassination attempt changes everything. We need to talk. And then this just outright doesn't look interesting. I don't even care. I got kicked out of pride for asking questions. Reacting to the most extreme woke TikToks ever made. What should we watch here, chat? What should we respond to? We haven't covered Blair White in forever. What do you guys think we should drop in on here? There's so much to pick from. Asking questions, Detransitioner one, woke TikToks, interview, dealer's choice. The interview one looks interesting, but at the same time, like a detransition, you guys realize what like responding to this is going to be, right? Like detransitioners do exist. There are an infinitesimally small fraction of people who go about any form of gender change, like gender identity change. But when they do exist, it's valid for them to like detransition if it was wrong for them. So it's just going to be tell your story and then implying that that story applies to like millions of other trans people. And like it's not really ever going to be stated, so there won't be an argument to respond to. It'll just be trying to force you into a situation where you try to deny the experience of this one individual person. It's just going to be weaponizing a single person's story against millions of marginalized people. That's it. Detransitioners are valid, but their grifter arguments aren't. Well, I mean, but grifter arguments aren't, not their grifter arguments. My bad. I almost want to watch this asking people Trump or Kamala one. I feel like, but this one about we need to talk looks appealing too, but it's 35 minutes. Let's watch this one. Asking people Kamala or Trump. We are in the lead up to the election. This is a lot more topical, to be fair. So let's give it a watch. Let's see what this is all about. How's Blair White doing? For those who don't know, last time I saw Blair White, she was like fucking Alex Jones or something like that. Mind you, Alex Jones recently got caught with trans porn, so.
Kamala.
Kamala.
Why is that?
I think it's obvious. That's all I have to say.
I don't give a rat's ass.
That's a good response.
Kamala.
Why is that?
I can't begin to tell you. Every reason.
Trump or Kamala?
Trump.
What does she do?
What do you think, sir?
No comment.
That means Trump, I think.
What do I want to do? I want the country to stay toxic, okay?
Hey guys, today we're in Washington, D.C., our nation's capital, in the midst of probably the most insane election ever. From an assassination attempt on Donald Trump to Joe Biden catching...
There's something about like the shoe-on-head Blair White, like girl boss brand of conservatism that's just so obnoxious to me. Maybe it's because like, ironically, despite being super duper progressive, I'm actually a pretty traditional like dude. I like explosions and like metal brutalist architecture and like camping and cutting down trees and working out and video games, which are a man's thing. I'll hear nothing of it. Like I'm generally like I'm kind of a dude's dude, right? Like I'm a dude, right? And so there's just something so counter to everything about me, about this brand of like presentation that bothers me a lot. And it's not just the girl boss branding and vibe, it's also the memes. A lot of this video isn't going to make any arguments. It's just going to be like sharp editing to use memes and jokes to replace arguments with vibes, basically. The people who watch this are supposed to get the vibe that the Trump supporters are well-reasoned and know what they're voting for, while Democrats and Harris supporters are crazy and insane, and they laugh just like her, and no sane person could laugh like that. Surely someone's laugh is representative of what kind of person they are, not their politics, their policies, what they're running on, what they've said or done, their history, anything like that. Just their laugh. This is the kind of stuff that, like, Blair White viewers are going to vote on if they're old enough to vote. Mind you, Blair White has a large audience of underage young trans kids who go to the internet to find trans figures to look up to, like role models, and unfortunately, the first person they're going to find is always going to be Blair White. Unfortunately, ContraPoints goes into like a 9-month to year-long torpor between uploads. She will never be able to dominate the YouTube algorithm in the modern landscape. Blair White is the trans YouTuber. She is the trans YouTuber. It sucks, but that's the situation. Granted, there are trans YouTubers with more prominence than her, but they don't really do pro-trans content or politics content. So, yeah, pretty fucked situation. Oh, yeah, a lot of trans people in chat right now were young, chuddy Blair White fans when they were figuring out their identity, and they were looking for trans, like, role models to look up to. She's very prominent, and she almost validates the identity of those that identify as fans of her by claiming, oh, yeah, the people that the cis people have a problem with are just trans trenders. We just need to gatekeep the movement, and the normal people will accept us. That's basically her argument. That's what she says, and that appeals to young people who just want to fit in and feel normal, and that's why her audience has such a young lean, and a lot of trans young people.
COVID and dropping out of the race, to Kamala Harris going from one of the least popular politicians to replacing Biden at the top of the Democratic ticket, it's been a shit show. At a time where the facade of corporate media, as well as people's trust for it, is basically dead.
This is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
This is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
This is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
This is extremely dangerous.
I really like the editing cues taken from Project Veritas. It's very effective. I don't know if you've ever watched like Project Veritas videos. In lieu of any arguments, like I mentioned before, they use sharp editing to give you a vibe. The vibe you're supposed to get from this edit is that they're all being given like talking points and there's no originality. When in reality, let's say there is a meteor coming for the Earth and you believe there's no meteor coming for the Earth, but there actually is one. If all the news stations are saying there's a meteor coming, you can very easily put together a collage of all the news stations saying that, and then like make your little meme where it's like, all right, NPCs, I'm a free thinker. And people will fall for that because they just want to think, that they just want to believe that there's like narratives and agendas out there to get them.
To our democracy.
And we're all ideologically segregated by algorithm on social media, it's hard to get a gauge of how this election's actually going to go. I wanted to ask real people who they're voting for, so I went to the
Absolutely hilarious. Blair White's entire career and her income is entirely predicated on the division between Americans online. Like, that's how she makes her living. Hell, mind you, by the way, the Democrats have never had a reputation, nor have liberals ever had, besides like when the right tries to push it with the SJW thing before, when their narrative was like the SJWs are attacking everybody. Now they don't even really go about that anymore because they can't find any SJWs to like turn into straw men of the entire left anymore. I don't know why, but they just don't really seem to have it in them these days. And so they heavily lean into this, like, giving you vibes. That's it, you know? I mean, at least Shu knows how see cringe right-winger clips and reacts with, ha, look at this weird fuck over here talking about weather guns, Lamau. While Blair's like, I'm not saying there's a weather gun, I'm just asking questions, but gosh, your negative response is evident enough that weather gun. Well, remember, though, guys, Sean Head's an anti-vaxxer. Her, like, alt Reddit account, like a year and a half ago, 2 years ago maybe, ended up getting leaked, and she had admitted on her alt Reddit account that she was not vaccinated from COVID and didn't plan to get vaccinated. Like, her husband's like a white nationalist and like a diehard Trump supporter. Okay, like she may not be super duper far right, but there's some weird, bizarre politics going on there that I can't even comprehend. I don't even want to think about it because thinking about it is like it feels like I'm looking into infinity, and my brain's just not meant to comprehend it. Okay. Opinions that inconsistent and incongruent, just they don't compute for me, you know? Doesn't make sense.
House to do it. And don't worry, unlike the last trans person that was here, I'll keep my clothes on.
Oh,
let's go see what people have to say.
I didn't expect to see titties.
Trump or Kamala?
I would vote Trump.
Well, it was, the economy was better than Trump.
100%, yeah. People can't even afford to live anymore.
There you go. If Trump wins, it will be on immigration and the economy because Trump did preside over a better economy, even though he had nothing to do with it. So, yeah, that the American people say better economy. Trump gets my vote. Simple as that. Like I said, guys, they would elect Hitler if it meant they knew gas prices would be, if they thought it meant that gas prices would be $2 less per gallon forever. Like, straight up, guys, I don't exaggerate. Americans are happy to accept fascism as long as they're convinced it will help their bottom line, their life situation get better. It's how fascism appeals to people.
I don't think people would expect that. So thank you guys so much for your opinions. Bye, guys. Trump or Kamala?
Kamala.
Why is that?
I think it's obvious. That's all I have to say.
For me, of course, Kamala.
Why is that?
Oh, she is representing the diversity all over the world. She is welcoming everybody, unlike, Trump.
What's your favorite thing she did so far in office?
As deputy?
As the VP.
As a VP.
What does she know? I assume this is a trick question on her part. The VP doesn't really make policy stuff. That's not the VP's job. Like, the VP is the president of the Senate, but the job of the Senate isn't to make policy. They vote on policy. So this is a nothing question. This is the way that conservatives brainwash and gaslight the average American. The average American doesn't know what the job of the vice president is. So when they see someone ask a Kamala voter, what is your favorite thing she's done while vice president? Of course they're not going to know, because her job is to talk to foreign leaders and to be the president of the Senate. So, like, there is no real answer to that question. She hasn't been president yet. It's a complete trick question, and her audience doesn't know it, but the fact that he can't answer the trick question looks like there's no good reason for even Kamala Harris supporters to support Kamala Harris.
Yeah, whatever she did in order to pass legislations that, respect the diversity and at the same time working for the welfare of the immigrants.
Mind you, we have a Republican-dominated House, so I'm pretty sure, like, nothing has really been getting to the Senate. Like, a lot of bills have been dying in the House because the Republicans, like, kill these bills, like, if anything about them is something they don't like. Any funding for welfare or to our, like, allies that are in trouble, like Ukraine, they'll shut down the government over it.
And beside all, that she's a lady. We want to see a woman governing the United States of America.
Man.
Do you think we'd be...
This guy's not doing a great job, and I can see why Blair White included him so early in the video.
less likely or more likely to go to war with a female president?
Yeah, 100% likely. For myself, 100% likely.
Trump or Kamala?
I think that was an English second language moment. I'm going to be real. I don't think he's voting for Kamala and thinks it's 100% likely that we're going to get into war if she gets elected. I don't think that's what he meant, but oh well.
Kamala.
Of course, Kamala.
Why is that?
Sorry?
Why is that?
I'm so big on peace. I'd love to have a country where there are no bullies. We know Trump is a bully.
During Trump, there was no war, no conflict, and we were expecting to see World War III.
A conservative pundit? Oh my God. What an amazing... The PBD podcast. Oh my God. How can I argue with such a citation? This is a first-hand source. This is just fact, what we're hearing here. You'll notice, by the way, when conservatives show evidence of, like, why their points are right, they'll usually show a prominent figure agreeing with them. How often have we covered, like, a conservative anti-woke video on, like, a game or something, and they show a clip of, like, Asmongold repeating the take they have as if that's an argument? Because to their audiences, hey, look, doesn't this prominent gaming content creator you statistically probably like is saying the same things I'm saying? You should sub to me too. There's no actual citation here, but they're treating it like one when the real desire is to appeal to a shared audience and be like, oh, I'm saying the same things that your guy is saying, right? Like, this isn't a citation. This is the PBD podcast. Mind you, Donald Trump committed several acts that, frankly, probably should have gotten us involved in war, and the only reason it didn't is because our foreign adversaries decided not to respond with war. Interesting that our enemies like to get into war with us when Democrats are in office, despite the very known knowledge that whatever party is in office when a war gets started with America, has a hard time electorally because wars are unpopular after the first 100 days. It's interesting, despite that being very well known in foreign policy, especially among our enemies, they always try to start conflicts with us when there is a Democrat in office, or get us involved in conflicts when there's a Democrat in office. But when there is a Republican in office, they can literally strike top generals of their country and they pretend like nothing happened. The fact is, a Republican presidency may mean less war now because our enemies want the American people to fucking believe it. The fact that our enemies deciding not to attack us back when Trump engages in acts of war does not mean that Trump is like so good at doing war that our enemies just don't fuck with us even when we attack them. That's probably what Trump supporters and the right wants people to believe. The fact is, these countries are biding their time and recognize that a Trump presidency is better than any military retaliation. That's why Putin and Russia invested hundreds of millions in pushing pro-Trump and pro-Russia propaganda among conservative pundits. They paid Tenet Media, Tim Pool, Lauren Southern, Dave Rubin. All those figures were paid by Russia to push pro-Trump because it is in Russia, Iran, all of our enemies' best interest to keep conservatives in power. Good citation, though. PBD Podcast, the top tier. This is where conservatives get their information and data.
Under him.
Then I will prevent World War III from happening. We will stop it.
The name calling, I'm also...
See, guys, it's actually completely Kamala and Biden's fault that Russia invaded Ukraine. Do you want to know why? Because Trump said if he was president, they would have never invaded because he would be president. And that means that it's Trump and Kamala, or Biden and Kamala's fault. Don't even think for a moment about why our enemies don't start shit with us and upset the American populace with war when a Republican is in office. I'm sure that our enemies have absolutely no ulterior motives to not stirring the pot politically in America when Republicans are in power. I'm sure it must mean that Republicans are really bad for our enemies to be in power. It must mean our enemies are terrified of keeping Republicans in office. They avoid doing anything that could harm the Republicans in an election as far as military action goes.
Big on women health. So I'd love somebody who will fight for the women health.
What's your favorite thing that Kamala did while she was in office so far?
So far, I remember she was tasked with what's the name of that thing? I forgot. I'm sorry.
She was taxed with?
God, it's disappeared.
It's okay. It's okay.
It disappeared.
All in all, you're in on Kamala.
Sorry?
So you're in on Kamala?
100%. I'm voting for the first time and I'm going to vote for her.
Okay.
I mean, this is really why I found my type of content to be so important, even among Kamala Harris voters. And granted, this is, Blair White has no doubt edited out every person who votes Kamala and gives a good answer, because why would she show the people who she despises and who her entire career is centered around demonizing and making look like idiots? Why would she ever honestly portray them, right? And so obviously, we're not going to see anybody who does a good job representing their position unless they're conservative here. However, I think it's important to point out that there are a lot of even Kamala supporters who don't know necessarily, can't explain the policy that is motivating them to vote for Kamala. Many of them are just voting for Kamala because she's not Trump, right? Now, that's good. And a lot of Americans, hell, Kamala might win because she's not Trump, and that's fine by me, whatever means she has to win by. But you can see now why I've been so insistent that I need to make so many videos talking about the achievements of Biden and Kamala Harris and what they're running on and why they are so much better than you might even suspect. Their policies are good. You need to know what their policies are. You don't want to be like these people that Blair White is selectively editing into the video. You don't want to be the kind of person who is voting for Kamala and doesn't really know why outside of Orange Man Bad. Because there's a lot of reasons to just be a Kamala Harris supporter, even if the Republican nominee wasn't Trump. And I think it's important to know those things. I think it's important to cast your ballot for Kamala, not begrudgingly, but with a smile on your face. I want you guys to be happy about it. And that's why I don't regret a bit of my content covering Biden's accomplishments. Frankly, I think the fact I've done so much research on it and paid so much close attention to it has put me ahead a lot of other figures on the left when it comes to arguing with the right. A lot of conservatives seem to have a real big confidence streak here where they'd go in and ask any lefty, any Kamala voter, why are you voting for Kamala? And I don't think they expect to get an answer. I have plenty of answers. Hell, we could start with the one of the earliest policies, which was their infrastructure bill. The biggest infrastructure bill ever in American history. That was one of the earliest achievements. I'm having to dig back far in the memory for that. I mean, Biden and Kamala Harris are responsible for, assuming Trump doesn't win, the coal industry is off the table, gone in America by 2035. Just gone. It's done. It's gone. Mind you, that is 20% of our power production is done by the coal industry. 80% of our yearly carbon footprint as a country is coal. We would be eliminating 80% of our carbon footprint by the year 2035. That's certainly not carbon negativity, but holy fuck, that's a lot. Like, that's enough to make you go from thinking it's all Jover to, are we back? It's not quite we're so back, but it's kind of, are we back? You know what I mean? Hell, I could go on. Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. Well, Kamala Harris's job isn't this. This is Biden's job. So it's a trick question to say, oh, what did Kamala do? But if they're going to say what Biden does reflects on Kamala, then you know what? Biden's achievements reflect on Kamala too. So that's how it works, at least in their view, in their evaluation of the situation, going by their rules. So Kamala Harris is also responsible for the lowering of insulin costs for seniors and veterans. Also, the veterans just got free healthcare expansions due to the massive funding bill that Biden pushed for with the it's not VFW, Veteran Care Association. What's it called, guys? What's the name of the government institution that provides care for veterans that Biden dropped a shitload of funding to, and Republicans, of course, tried to stop? Hell, Kamala Harris and Biden were behind the biggest border security funding bill ever that would have given Republicans everything they claimed to want. They knew the Republicans would block it because it would take away everything they want to run on for the election. And of course they did. And some Republicans, the ones who aren't on the Trump train, like Romney, called it out for explicitly being the Republican GOP as a whole, blocking everything they've wanted in the realm of immigration from happening because they don't actually care about achieving these things. They just want to run on them. To an extent, I'm so confident in this, I wonder if a Trump presidency might not be as bad as we expect, in the sense that they have to leave some things to try and run on in the future. But then again, Trump probably plans on there never being another election. So if there is another election and Trump isn't able to destroy democracy in this country, he might not be able to go a lot further because the Republicans are going to want more to run on in the future. They can't, quote unquote, solve all these problems and still have a culture war to fight, right? Once the culture war is won, it's all over. They fall apart. The grift dries up. With how hard Trump runs back to immigration, if that bill didn't get blocked, this election would be over. Really, yeah. If that bill had gone through, I don't think Trump would have any chance of winning. Genuinely, no chance of winning. No chance whatsoever. And as bad as that border funding bill was, as it would have led to mass deportations and stuff in many respects, it would have also overhauled the immigration system to make it way easier to legally immigrate. It did everything that is a popular policy with immigration among the majority of U.S. voters. And the Republicans blocked it for Trump explicitly. Other Republicans called it out, like Romney. Man, I can't watch any more of this, dude. Oh, God. Content creators like Blair White, their success is based entirely on how effective they are at warping the reality that their viewers see. But this is the kind of stuff that succeeds online. The only way you can fight it is by, guess what? Guess what you can do to fight it? Guess what you can do? You can vote, and you can also consider dropping a like on this video, VOD, or stream, whether you're watching it live or after the fact. It really does help a lot. Every thumbs up pushes my content in the algorithm, just like the 28,000 thumbs up this Blair White video has. Really helps a lot. It pushes my content in the algorithm and helps it get into the view of new viewers who might not have watched my content anyway. Otherwise, they wouldn't have even known it existed if you didn't hit that like button. You can also drop a comment to help boost that effect as well, and consider subscribing and ring the bell icon to turn on all notifications so that YouTube also tells you when I go live or upload a new video. And of course, consider perhaps following my social medias, linked down below in the description. If you want to see more from me on other platforms, you can also join my fan Discord, linked down below, if you want to be a part of the main hub of my community, which is totally free to join, by the way. I also host weekly watch parties, gaming streams, and call-in streams as well, or gaming events and call-in streams as well. And on top of that, I announce all my new uploads oh my god, I can't speak. I've got mush mouth right now. I announce all my new streams, uploads, and videos there as well. So if you don't want to miss anything, even if YouTube bugs out, join the Discord server. It will tell you. And of course, finally, if you feel so inclined and you're feeling generous and you can afford it, consider donating, subscribing, or gifting a sub to me on my website, xanderhall.com/live, or support me through YouTube, Twitch, Streamlabs, Stream Elements, or Patreon, or buying merch at the Streamlabs link down below if you haven't already, as it does help to keep the lights on and a roof above my head here at the Xander Hall studio. Though regardless of how you support me, even if you're just a lurker, hanging out, not saying anything, I really do appreciate it. I hope to see you again, and have a good one.